Good afternoon. I am Sister Rose Grabowski, and I'm here to share with you my thoughts on Laudato Si, Chapter 4. As we continue our study of Laudato Si, we remember from Chapter 1 that we have heard that climate change is a global problem with grave implications. In Chapter 2, it reminded us that humans are uniquely created and we are called to exercise stewardship over creation on behalf of our loving Creator. In Chapter 3, it reiterated the interconnectedness of all creation, and as such, connects care for creation to the protection of human life and our dignity. Integral Ecology, Chapter 4, studies the relationship between living organisms and the environment in which they develop. The word integral means necessary for completeness, the whole or complete, made up of parts forming a whole. When we speak of the environment, what we really mean is a relationship of nature and the society which lives in it. Each organism is a creature of God and is good in itself. The crisis we are facing demands an integrated approach to combating poverty, restoring dignity to the excluded and poor, and in protecting nature. As we remember how the ecosystem interacts, it disperses carbon dioxide, purifies water, controls illnesses and epidemics, forms soil, breaks down waste. These examples show us the interrelatedness of nature. The ecosystems have the regenerative ability in different areas and aspects. That is why the protection of our environment is an integral part of the development process. Cultural ecology refers to protecting the treasure of humanity in its broadest sense. It is the history, culture, and architecture of places. It is respecting and appreciating the rights of peoples and culture. It is language, dress, customs, food, drinks, spiritualities of all peoples, Polish, German, Peruvian, Italian, North, Central, and South American natives, African, Jamaican, Puerto Rican, Asian, Japanese, Australian, Irish, English, Welsh, French, Spanish, Ukrainian, and Russian are just some of the peoples of our world. The disappearance of a culture can be just as serious or even more serious than the disappearance of a species or a plant or animal. Indigenous communities and their cultural traditions are in need of special care. We learn from them how to treat the land as a gift from God and from their ancestors who now rest there. Land is a sacred space with which they need to interact and maintain their identity and values. The crises, we know that their lands are threatened for agricultural and mining projects, for greed and profit. We have come to realize that care for creation is intimately connected to the promotion of a preferential care for the poor, since those with the least are the most harmed by ecological degradation. I've read an article entitled Microplastics in Placentas. This is definitely a pro-life issue. This article was in January issue of Environment International. Scientists have revealed for the first time that microplastics have been discovered in human placentas. The particles were identified as the residue of plants, adhesives, plasters, cosmetics, and personal care products. Apparently, there is no place uninhabited by these tiny polymers. They have been found on the peak of Mount Everest and in the deepest trench of the ocean. And now it appears that our children are being formed in wombs infused with inorganic materials. Pope Francis tells us in Laudato Si that we are faced not with two separate crises, one environmental and the other social, but rather with one complex crisis, which is both social and environmental. Throughout his papacy, Pope Francis has been exhorting the faithful to view the world with integral vision. I end with a quote from Amanda Gordon when she spoke at President Biden's inauguration. When day comes, we step out of the shade, aflame and unafraid. The new dawn blooms as we free it, for there is always light, if only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it. In that light, I ask us to look to taking the St. Francis pledge. It goes, I or we pledge to pray and reflect on the duty to care for God's creation and to protect the poor and the vulnerable. I pledge, or we pledge, to learn about and educate others on the causes and moral dimensions of climate change. We pledge to assess how we, as individuals, contribute to climate change by our own energy use, consumption, waste, etc. We pledge to act to change our choices and behaviors to reduce the ways we contribute to climate change. Here are some questions to consider. Why does Pope Francis argue that we are faced not with two separate crises, one environmental and the other social, but rather with one complex crisis, which is both social and environmental? What would it mean to have an integral approach to combating poverty, restoring dignity to the excluded, and at the same time protecting nature? Why does Francis think it is important for us to understand ecosystems and our relationship to them? What are the consequences of seeing the earth as a gift that we are freely received and must share with others, and that also belongs to those who follow us? How does the environment of our homes, workplaces, and our neighborhoods affect our quality of life? And finally, what is the purpose of our life in this world? Why are we here? What is the goal of our work and all our efforts? What need does the earth have of us? Thank you.